Have you ever wondered if there's life after burnout? Have you ever wondered, oh my goodness, is that what's happening to me? I remember wondering if I wasn't inspired enough, if I was just stuck in some area, if I wasn't good at what I did anymore. I had a lot of imposter syndrome, and there were a lot of things that I was going through until finally I realized that I was burned out, that I couldn't take it anymore, that change needed to happen. And so I'm so grateful that I went from burnout to a fulfilling career, that I not only did that, but also became my own boss in the process. And so I want to show you a little bit about what that looks like, what you can do to make yourself feel better, the healing process, how even to identify burnout, how to take action when you're burned out. Because of course, I can tell you all energetic now, like, oh, you could do this, and you're sitting there just exhausted. If you're anything like how I was burnt out, your eyes might be puffy from crying, your hair is just in a bun, or you're saying to yourself, another invitation on my phone. I don't want to reach out to anyone. And the list goes on and on and on. I'm not trying to add to your stress here, but there are things that you can do, even if you're feeling exhausted, even if you're feeling drained, even if you're in a soul-sucking situation. There are things that you can do now that you can handle, I promise you, because I've done it myself, and it's helped me go from burnout, exhaustion, feeling really lost, to getting out of bed in the morning without the alarm going off. And even if I set the alarm, I still get up before the alarm, and you can too. There is hope on the other side of this pain, and you can completely complete your career change without burnout, or make things better for yourself in your current career or industry. So I'm going to dive right in a second, but before I do, I want to tell you a little bit about who I am, and I'm going to just play a quick intro so that you can see why I have a little bit of credibility in who else I have helped before we dive in deep into all of these tips so that you too can apply them. I want to show you a little bit about where I've come from, how far I have come, and then we're going to sink our teeth into all these amazing areas of your life that you can evaluate so that you can go from burnout to a fulfilling career. Hi, I'm Ilean Harris, an entrepreneur and Cuban American. When I started as an entrepreneur, I had little resources, so I quickly learned how to work smart. I experienced lots of headaches and setbacks when I started, but today everything is different. I've got clients in over 20 countries, I've traveled the world, and I want to show you how to do the same. In this community, you will gain amazing training and inspiration to build a business of your dreams and a great lifestyle to go with it. Whether you're an entrepreneur with lots of ambition and experience, or you have just started your entrepreneurial journey, you've come to the right place. Remember, you can have it all. Being burned out is no joke, okay? Being burned out is something that is completely stressful and draining. Draining is the worst part, right? Because then you're just like, I'm depleted of energy to do something about it. But thankfully, there are things that you can do. But one of the first signs that you're burned out is that you shut down a little bit. Maybe you speak up a little less. Maybe you see that something could be improved and you're sort of like, whatever. You find yourself lowering your standards, whether it's in your work product or even in what you eat, or you just don't need to have, and it's the little details, right? Like you don't care if your clothes are so wrinkled. You start not caring if your bed is made or not. You start just lowering your standards in different areas of your life. You find yourself kind of vegetating a little bit. It looks different for different people. Some people sleep in way more. Some people, for instance, will do a lot more Netflix marathons than they used to. Other people, perhaps they can see it a bit with food, and you keep telling yourself, I need a break. I need to relax. And you kind of supposedly are recharging your batteries, but it's actually a little bit of a vegetative state in something that doesn't energize you. And then when you go back to the situation that exhausted you, now you're going back in a little lethargic from what you were doing to supposedly make it better. And it's this vicious cycle that leads to this perpetual burnout, and it can impact your ability to generate an income as an entrepreneur, your ability to create content, your ability to come up with ideas to relate to others. Maybe you're snapping a little bit more, and to other people it might look unprovoked, but it has been building up for years of exhaustion. And who knows if you're putting up with passive aggressiveness or corporate bullying, and there's a number of things people gaslighting you, maybe a tough relationship. And there's a lot of things that stress you out. And so when you snap, everyone around you, because you have been keeping it all inside, probably, like, where did that come from? Oh, she's changed. He's changed. Something is wrong. And you're just so drained. You don't know anymore what it looks like. And here's what I'm going to tell you. You can be inspired. You can be happy and make a ton of money. You can be happy and inspired and have a fulfilling career. You can have a happy marriage and a fulfilling career. You can be a wonderful parent and have a fulfilling career. You can travel the world and have a fulfilling career. But it's not going to happen if you're not burned out. I know. I mean, if you are burned out, I know what it's like to be burned out, even in my own business. I remember I was just doing too much, and thanks to burnout, that was a huge sign I needed to hire more people. Burnout can be a signal, okay? It can be a signal, not that something is wrong with you. It could be a signal that you could perform better in a different environment. So for instance, if we think about a literal burn, if I stick my hand in a fire, that burning sensation tells me to move my hand away, which protects my hand, which allows me to continue using it in a number of ways. And so we need to sometimes embrace the burnout a tiny bit, because without it, we would have just stayed in a rut. We would have continued perpetuating and enabling a soul-sucking situation, because the burnout wasn't there to tell us, oh my goodness, this doesn't feel that great. We need to change something. And so we do need to embrace a bit of the process, but not to the point where things always have to stay as they are now. There can be change. There is a better way. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. I didn't have anyone to show me. And so I don't want you sitting around reinventing the wheel. Let me guide you a little bit on some of the things that have helped me go from a hot mess to a success, that have helped me go from feeling like my world was crumbling to helping me feel inspired and excited about anything and everything again. So one of the first things that you have to realize when you're burnt out is that you have to rebuild. This doesn't mean that you have to get a new job, or you have to start a new business, or you have to do every single thing brand new, but you yourself have to rebuild. You have to rebuild your confidence, your posture, your coping mechanisms, the way you deal with stress. You have to maybe rebuild your social support. Maybe you're burned out because you're surrounded by toxic people and you need to rebuild that social support system. Perhaps you need to rebuild a community if you have moved and you've been doing a lot on your own and that has you exhausted. There is going to be something to your unique situation that you are going to have to rebuild. And so there are 4 areas that you can consider when rebuilding. And this in particular, I'm going to focus on specifically the mindset of it, the things that I want you to consider, the success I want you to have. Because look, I'm recording this in the Dominican Republic. I'm practicing what I preach. You can rebuild, and you can then use these skills from your Rolodex in the future to prevent the burnout too. So it's pretty cool how simple things can have such a significant impact. I mean, the highest skyscrapers sometimes are held by the smallest of screws compared to the size of the skyscraper. So just because something is easy to do doesn't mean that it couldn't be life-changing. And also, you got to be careful, because especially when you're burnt out, what's easy to do is also easy not to do. But the main theme is you've got to rebuild, okay? You've got to rebuild, and these are 4 areas that you've got to look at. First, you've got to be really honest with yourself and evaluate what worked and what didn't for you. In my opinion, okay, and I highly recommend that you listen to your opinion, because part of not being burned out is trusting your gut again and rebuilding that confidence. And it starts here with, hey, what do you have to say about this? What's your say in the matter? And for me, I remember that I was saying yes to too much. I was saying yes with the best of intentions, but people saw how exhausted I was. People saw how much I had on my plate. And I guess they had that mentality of, well, you never know unless you ask. And they were okay with me working past 2 a.m. They were okay with me staying up all night. They were okay with a lot of things because I said yes. Nobody put a gun to my head to a lot of things, and I was still showing up and saying yes. And we do have to release this thing where we have to be likable. And I had to come to terms with the fact that, because when I evaluated what worked and what didn't work for me, I realized I was in a sense okay with saying no. What I wasn't okay with was maybe someone not liking me, or I was afraid, a lack mentality made me think, oh, well, if I'm not there for them, then what if one day I need them, and this and that. And I had to switch that mindset and get out of a lack mentality and instead focus on abundance. And when I realized that saying yes to everything was not working for me, in my opinion, then that was completely life-changing, because at least that gave me enough gas in my tank to realize other areas. Another big area that wasn't working for me was nutrition, okay? I was eating okay. I can't tell you that I have this, I don't drink alcohol, I don't drink coffee, I don't really drink soda, unless maybe once in a while on a plane I'll have a Sprite, But for the most part, you would look and not think glaringly nutrition was a big one. But I just felt in my gut something could have been better. And I literally took a test, and it turns out I have all these food sensitivities. Now, thank goodness they're mild. They're not food allergies. I am not super afraid. I'm not, in the super alert situation that other friends of mine are that truly have an allergy to certain food items. But when I eliminated these things from my diet, nothing to do with money, nothing to do with branding, nothing to do with how many followers, oh my goodness, I could just feel so much more clearer. I started taking more supplements, and that still had nothing to do with boundaries with people in my life and increasing prices and doing all these other things that have also kept me from burnout. But it gave me such a great baseline, because look, you cannot give from what you do not have. So you've got to sit there and truly evaluate what's working for you and what's not. Is there a dynamic in your relationship that's not working, that's hurting your career? Is there a dynamic with a client, with an employee? What is it that is happening? I've had a super toxic, emotionally unstable business partner. That was not working. I had to rebuild from that. That had to for sure be cut off for any success or any happiness to happen. And these are tough decisions to make. But I thought to myself, I would rather deal with the uncertainty of rebuilding than deal with the known factor that I'm going to keep feeling this way, and worse if this continues. And I'll tell you this, my worst day moving forward, setting boundaries and changing things is still better than my best day in toxic situations that led me to burnout, all right? I have another video in this series of career changes and fulfilling journeys where I tell a little bit more about my story and changing my career from doctoral program to entrepreneur. So you can watch that there. And I've got other trainings for you where I teach you how to turn your passions into profits, where I show you how to automate your sales, how to automate lead generation so your business can grow while you're sleeping. Yeah, that is super helpful for burnout, okay? That is life-changing. That's why I've got customers in over 20 countries. But until you realize that you are burnt out and that you've got to take care of yourself first, those things, they will still be secondary. But don't worry, I'll leave all those links in the description below. They're down there. You can sink your teeth into them and do a deep dive into those trainings. There is no use in you reinventing the wheel. Instead, you can go like I did from hot mess to a success by not just changing your mindset, but also acting on it. Now that you think differently, you got to move differently, right? And that's what I did. And I started showing that in my business, in my strategic thinking. I started when I evaluated what worked and what didn't. One of the things that didn't work for me was having this laptop lifestyle. I'm always stuck to the laptop. Yes, I love the beach and I love travel, but I'm also really passionate about charity work. I love humanitarian work. I love volunteering. And if my business was not scalable and there was nothing automated, I was always going to be attached to my computer. Sure, I could work from a coffee shop in Spain or South Africa or here and there, but I'm still stuck to my laptop. And so that was super important for me. And don't worry, I teach you all about that in my training. You'll see it in the description. It is spectacular, and I've helped people in over 100 niches automate their sales. But the truth is that you've got to know what's working for you and what's not working for you, because if you rebuild, but you bring the same baggage from before, you're not going to have any extra square footage for the other things you want, right? You're still going to be weighed down by all that extra baggage. Then I want you to think about what lights you up. I know for me, I am a little bit shy, surprisingly, yes. And I am a smidge, not a smidge, I'd say a 50-50% introvert. So half the time I want to myself, and the other half of the time I want to be around people and I want to be super extroverted. And you'll see that in my business because I sell e-courses and that's automated. And I've also got coaching and I take on my private clients. You got to know what lights you up. It's like I'm around people, but then I gotta get away and recharge my batteries and then I'm right back. And so I know that about myself. What do you know about yourself that you could, bring forward with utter honesty into a fulfilling career? What do you know about yourself? Do you hate having a job that makes you travel? Do you love traveling? Do you want to work from home? Do you want to be your own boss? Do you want to grow as a network marketer, as a coach, as a speaker, as a trainer, as an online marketer? Do you want to sell e-courses? If you do, don't worry. I show you how to do all of that in the trainings below. But the truth is, what lights you up? And one of the things you can think about is your experience. I thought a lot about my work experience, my resume, but then I started thinking, well, I bet there's a bunch of things I take for granted. So like my event planning experience, for my own company, we've had training events and conventions and thousands of people come, but I never really saw that as a skill of my own until I started thinking about what did I enjoy? What made me happy? What pictures did you post on social media maybe? What were moments that were lighting you up? Then you got to think about, all right, what are options for you? If your goal is to make $10 million, that's wonderful, okay? But if you have never done that before or even half of that, you're gonna have to build some skills to make that happen, and that's okay. The problem isn't your goal. The problem is if you think it's all or nothing, all right? So I want you to not just have a big, hairy, scary goal, but also have short-term goals that fuel you up to prevent burnout so that you can achieve your big goal. So yes, if you have a $10 million goal, but you've never made $10,000, start with a short-term $10,000 goal and know you're building up to the 10 million. So I'm not telling you to dream small. I'm telling you to dream and work smart. So when you make that $10,000, you celebrate, you hit a goal. Now you know what it's like to stick to a goal, to be disciplined. You know what worked, what didn't work. And now when you go for $100,000, you can build off of that experience. From $100,000, you build to $500,000, so on and so forth. And you'll get to your $10 million goal, but it's okay to have short-term goals to get there. A lot of times people have goal and dreaming burnout, and they say to themselves, it's impossible. Nobody has the money. Nobody has the time. Look at the economy. This is crashing. Look at crypto. That happened. I mean, the news itself will ruin your life if you just watch it all the time. And I'm not saying those things aren't happening, but I'm also saying, are we paying equal attention to all the abundant things happening in the world that are just as real, and we are not giving them half the praise and attention they deserve? And so think about what are options for you. Where can you start and build up to that goal? So imagine if you woke up every single day, and even though you were so productive the day before, because you didn't complete your abnormally large to-do list that you probably would have never even expected an employee to complete, but somehow you need to, then you already wake up and go to sleep disappointed. Your expectations can force you to have to rebuild from burnout every single day. And that's no way to live. That's not necessary. You matter with or without achievements. You are worthy of praise and appreciation and support and peace. So think about what are options for you, what are short-term goals. And then I also want you to think about entrepreneurship, okay? Think about your business. What do you want to do that's different? Do you want to earn more? Do you want to scale more? Do you want to automate more? Do you want to hire more people? Do you need to increase your prices? And I won't go too deep into that, but usually it's not just the fact that, oh, you're burnt out just because of one tiny thing, or if I just added supplements, it would fix everything. Absolutely not. If you want a fulfilling career, you got to make sure you're earning your worth. You have boundaries. There's time for you and there's time for your goals. You've got to have this mindset that you can have it all and you don't have to choose, and you need to be unapologetic about building that because it is 100% possible. It might not look possible, and that's because it's not a party, it's not an event, it's a process. It is a process and you need to evolve, all right? And so think about your options, think about what you can improve in your business. And if you need to learn more about that, like I mentioned earlier, I'm leaving a whole bunch of resources in the description below to help you succeed in your business. You want to check out those links. The trainings are absolutely free, but that is your role. That is where you decide, okay, what are your boundaries with clients? What are you charging? And all of this together can help you rebuild, because the truth is that you can go from burnout. But if you keep doing the same thing over and over again, you cannot go from burnout to a fulfilling career, because you'll just keep finding a different version of burnout. So maybe now you're not burned out financially, but now you're burned out in an exhaustion. Maybe now you have a bit more energy, but you have zero time. And that's no way to live, trading one problem for another. You can actually have your goals be a dream and not be a nightmare. It is possible to succeed, make sales in your sleep, travel the world, do whatever the heck it is that you want to do without being miserable in the process. I believe in you. I've done it myself. I know what it's like to pick yourself up, what it feels like from the pits of hell, because it is so extremely stressful and draining and soul-sucking to be in a situation that's not inspiring to you. And I also know how worth it was to put myself out there and take the risk and make those changes and set those boundaries. I believe in you. You got this, and I'm super excited to see you in the next video. And until then, remember that you can have it all.